Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first mobility session of the day called Seamless Transport, Commuting Easily while paying smarter. Commuting is the daily transport to and from work. It remains the backbone of urban and also of suburban transport. And to make it efficient means acknowledging the importance of the daily movements into and out of city cores, out of urban cores. Now, when we talk about urban transport, we generally talk about exactly those urban cores. And that's where so-called innovation and disruption happen. But is it really innovation to focus always on the city center, on the city centers to the point of over-focusing, if we want to really get people to ditch their cars on their way to work and build a more sustainable commuting? Do we need e-scooters in overserved urban cores where transit is dense, available 24/7, and of good level? Or shouldn't we rather focus on the origins of the problem? Why do people use their cars, actually, instead of using transit? Well, if we use a holistic look, that reveals that in most cases, the overabundance of cars in city centers is a consequence of infrastructural and supply deficits in the periphery. That is what we need to focus on, making the in-out commute easier. And if we prepare for an AV age, simple calculations reveal that you cannot replace streams of big vehicles by streams of small vehicles. The worst thing we could do is further atomize transportation movements. We will need trains and high-capacity bus systems even more in the future, and we will need robotized shuttles as a last-mile solution or for tangential services where running high-capacity fixed-route services is not possible. And above all, we need them to address the nightmare that some of our suburban regions have become from an urbanistic point of view. So one of the major infrastructural hinderings that we have are the weakness of our fare payment systems. I know of no other industry than ours that uses thousands of different fare payment systems. Some are based on zones, some are based on distances. These zones can have pretty weird ways in which they are assembled. Distance-based fares, periphery-based fares, with or without supplements for airports or for other places, and woe to those who dare to cross the borders of a tariff community. That's where it then really becomes complicated. So to fix these things, we need efficient innovations in fare payment systems that make our daily commute easier. And with no further ado, I will introduce our first speaker, Mrs. Deborah Sills. Debbie is Deloitte's Global Consulting Head of Government and Public Services. She's a principal leader in Deloitte's Consulting Life Sciences and Healthcare practice, where she leads one of Deloitte's most strategic account relationships. She also serves as Deloitte's Global Systems Engineering Leader. Debbie has more than 30 years' experiences in large-scale, technology-led business transformations and consulting. Debbie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So, and thanks to all of you for getting up early this morning and being here on this last day of this fantastic conference. I'm going to spend my time this morning talking a little bit about the platform for smart cities, including mobility, of course, being the topic of today's conversation, but really from a point of view of why act, why now, and then how do you get started? As you walk around the exhibition floor here, it's amazing the number of solutions, the number of vendors, the capabilities that are available to cities and that are available to you as you start to move forward in your journey as a smart city. But there's a dizzying array of options out there. So how do you make sense of all that? And how do you actually get started along the path to creating a smart city where your mobility challenges are addressed? So I really want to talk from that perspective this morning, because you all having been here for 3 days, there's probably nothing I can teach you about the content of mobility or smart cities at this point in your journey. So let me start just by talking a little bit about what's the burning platform here? Why do anything and why do it now? Well, I would like to start by, this is a theme that has come up in many of the discussions that I've heard this week around the unprecedented urbanization that all of our cities are dealing with. So we have influxes of people into our cities, which are causing our mobility challenges to be much more exacerbated, causing difficulties in people getting around and causing environmental challenges and so forth. So at the real core of the problem is this massive urbanization. But I also would suggest that many of your governments won't be able to grow from a budget perspective at the same rate as the population is growing. So how do you continue to provide services? How do you continue to provide infrastructures like roads and airports when you are serving so many more citizens with essentially the same budget, or maybe an increased budget, but certainly not at the same level of the increase of the population? So the really core of the problem and why we need to do something and why we need to do it now is that we're going to have to continue to provide services in a way that doesn't result in gridlock in our cities as our populations continue to expand. The environmental challenges are real. We've heard a whole session yesterday on the environmental challenges and a lot of passionate speakers talking about how we all need to act now around the environmental challenges and making a difference to what's going to be predominantly a problem of our cities, whether it's air quality or the management of waste or the availability of water. There are many environmental challenges that are going to be important for us as we move forward. Safety and security, of course, as our businesses grow, but there are new safety and security concerns. As we get into new modes of transport, those of you who live in cities where scooters are prevalent, for example, will notice a whole set of new public safety issues as scooters whiz around pedestrians on footpaths. So there are many new challenges that are coming up around safety and security, and managing those is paramount for a city. It's really the core of their mission. Civic engagement is another important issue. I think, coming from the United States, we've lived in a world of apathy in the civil engagement space. And as our populations continue to increase and going to a town hall meeting becomes less feasible for many people with their busy work styles and their commutes and so forth, we need new ways to reach out to our citizens and engage them in the conversation about what their community is going to look like in the future. And of course, tacked on the end here is this little thing called disruptive technology. And that really goes to the why now. The business case is clear as to why do something, but why now is because the availability of solutions that can really move the ball and create a lasting and sustainable impact in cities is here now. And so now we have the tools at our disposal to do the things necessary to make a difference. When we think about smart cities from a Deloitte perspective, we really think about a certain number of areas that we want to be focused. The first is around opportunity. And what does opportunity really mean in this context? And I would suggest that opportunity comes in a number of different flavors. There is financial opportunity. I touched on this in my early comments, but the return on investment and some of the investments that you will make around the infrastructure on your smart city will pay back financially in very large ways. For example, today, in order to service a citizen's requirement to fix a hole in the road or some other issue that they have, there are numerous people involved going out to the site to assess the issues and then making sure we got the right team with the right supplies to go and fix that problem. And it can be many weeks or even many months before action can be taken. So there's a backlog of activities, our workers are busy. With the right sort of technologies and the right sort of smart city infrastructure, that can be very quickly shortcutted and save many hours of man work by taking photos and uploading them and allowing people to know where to go, how to get there, what to take with them in one visit. There is a real financial cost saving around doing that, not to mention a citizen satisfaction outcome that's also important with that transaction. So there are real cost benefits in many of these areas, and being able to capture that ROI in order to support the funding requests that cities have to drive this new infrastructure into their cities is going to be one of the really important parts of the equation. Inclusivity is a big issue for our cities, where we're not always sure of whether the programs that we put in place really help all of our population, or they help some of our populations and not others. And so this whole idea of being inclusive and bringing all of our citizens together around a problem and making sure that we're serving the whole citizen base in our cities is a super important guiding principle for us as we think about this space. I talked already about sustainability, but when we talk about sustainability here, it's not just environmental sustainability, as important as that is, but it's also the sustainability of our programs. The sustainability of our cities. How do we make our cities sustainable cities so they continue to grow, that they continue to be financially buoyant, that they continue to provide the services that citizens need? So we're creating the sustainability for that organism that we call our city, as well as our sustainability for our environment. Experience we talk about a lot, the consumer experience. You know, our millennial population who are used to the here now, you know, I need my answer, I need it today, and I need it right now. The generation that has grown up using technology in retail transactions and other things, it's super important for them, and also for all of us to be able to access our services in a quick, efficient way and not be spending our time standing in lines and waiting for our driver's license or whatever that particular transaction might be. And of course, we talked about safety before. It really needs to be fundamental to everything we do. So this is it's a really tall order. There's a lot of things that people are looking for from their mobility programs and their cities. So how do you get started? So very quickly, there are a couple points I want to bring up here. First, on the top is a line that says smart city vision. There's an old saying that if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So it's really important to be clear about what the fundamental vision is for the city. Where do you want to go? What are your big problems? How do you solve them? And then on the bottom, I really want to look at the very bottom line as well, which is really about ROI and funding. So the question is, how do you fund these initiatives? Usually there's a capital spend that needs to take place in terms of buying equipment, implementing data analytics solutions and so forth. And so really understanding the return on investment of the elements that you choose to implement along the way so that you can measure your performance, you can measure your savings, and you can encourage your investors and your funders to continue to invest in the program is super important at this point in time. Then you'll notice in this chart there are a number of cross-cutting elements. I call them agile regulation, cybersecurity, data governance, and an integrated technology and data platform. These elements are fundamental to the growth of your smart city. You might start in the mobility space and focus on solving mobility challenges for your city, but you also might later on want to be focused on things like utilities and water and so forth. And you need a single data platform and technical platform that can bring all those elements together so that you have the availability of the information at your fingertips to make decisions that will help move your city forward. So these things, I believe, are fundamental platform items that should be put in place as you start to move forward with your smart city. Then you really can focus on those vertical lines, on your scooters and your bikes and your buses and your trains and so on and so forth. And as your world expands into lighting and waste management, these can all continue to plug in to that same platform, and the data can continue to support your decision making as a city. Now, on the other side of the chart, I've got 3 bullets: program and ecosystem management, analytics, and change management and communication. From a program and ecosystem management point of view, it is a certainty that there will be many, many, many vendors and many, many, many partners that will be working with cities to create this ecosystem, to move those cities forward. And managing that whole ecosystem is a really complex set of challenges. Who's doing what? How are the data's integrating? Where are those particular vendors playing in your ecosystem? So managing that and putting a structure in place to manage that is super important. And then managing your program. Are you achieving the returns on investment that you told your funders you would? How is that looking for you? Where's the next big thing? How do we plan that in? What sort of work needs to get done? The bottom here, I talked about change management and communication. Creating a smart city, creating a new mobility system, it's not just about technology, I think you all know that. It's also about how the workers in the city and the citizens in the city behave, what they do on a day-to-day basis, the choices they make, and unless there's a big focus on how you change the way people think about their engagement in the mobility system, their engagement in the city, then the best technology solutions in the world won't succeed. So we'll have a lot of mobility options, but everyone will still be driving their cars. So that's an incredibly important point. And of course, across all of this is this great capability that we have with today's technology to leverage analytics and really understand what's going on. It's something we've never had before at the level that we have it today, where you can layer different types of information across many dimensions that will help you to pinpoint where a Wi-Fi router might be out and the impact that that has on your mobility system, on your lighting system, on your waste management system, and so forth. So these types of analytics will be fundamental to really creating efficiency in these smart cities. So that's what I had to say today, so I'll hand back to our moderator to introduce our next speaker. Did you want to take questions now, or do we want to do that at the end? Any questions for while I'm still standing here? No one's got a question. Okay, well, let's pass over to our other speaker, and then we maybe have some questions later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Actually, if it's too early for questions yet, I suggested we make an integrated question session with all our speakers, a Q&A at the very end, and I guess that across the different talks, from what we will learn and what the questions that will be fostered, they will totally raise questions later. So without no further ado, I'll introduce our next speaker, Mr. Rui Rei. He's from Cascais Próxima, the chief of the board, and is responsible for the mobility projects. Rui, please.
Hi, good morning to everybody. Thank you to invite me to present here the mobility system in Cascais. Near is a village. We are not a city. We are a proud village near Lisbon. And our politicians has an important role to play in this mobility revolution that we are now doing in Lisbon and in Portugal. Why? Because we talk about mobility, but I came from a village, from a municipality that has today more or less 220,000 people. It's not so big as other cities, but is a right place to make these movements, these kind of changes, this kind of revolution that we need to make regarding the mobility. But of course, in Cascais, our citizens love their car. As you can see, our modal split showing this option. In 2015, when we make this study, we see that our people love and they move. 66% of the modal split is being doing by car. And of course, in this case, our mayor and our vice mayor take the decision to change really the mobility system. And everything starts in 2015 by responsibility of the European Union, that they say to all of the countries of Europe that you need to change and you need to respect the community law, and you need to ask to the markets who wants to give the better service to the regions. And in 2015, our mayor and our vice mayor took the decision to create two things that we believe that is very important to our city. The regulation, the mandatory regulation in the city, and the internal operator to start to change the rules of mobility. And after this decision in 2015, the metropolitan area started to do the same thing, but 3 years later. And everything in Cascais started in 2015 since today. And of course, we in Cascais, we want to implement, and we are implementing this system, a sustainability system, but during these 3 days, you hear a lot of people saying that we do everything sustainability, with sustainability in kind of financial and in environmental. But today, we are talking about the sustainability because during all of these years, we are doing all the things, all the decisions in the opposite side of the sustainability. But our ecosystem has the challenge to make the integration of all means of mobility. Because we believe that we need to give the citizens the right to choose the best way to move from one point to another point. If we don't give this option to the citizens will continue choosing the car because the car is it's not a kind of safety, but it's my car. And I have my car in the garage, I can take the car, I go to the office, I take 2 hours, 3 hours, but I'm in my car, I can talk in the phone, I can hear the car and whatever. But we need to change, and we are changing this, and we start implementing our bikes, our buses, and we have today the big bike sharing system in Portugal with 90 stations, more than 800 bikes, normal bikes. Now we started introducing the electrical bikes. We are now with 100. We will receive the next 2 months 300 more bikes. In total, we will have more than 1,200 bikes to hold the system. It's the bigger system in Portugal, and this is the unique system that is fully integrated in the mobility system. That means if I have the monthly fee, if I have the, as we call the pass, the monthly fee to use the train, the bus, the metro, whatever, I have my bike inside of this system. And it's not only for leisure, it's for the pleasure to use in the normal way of when I move from my home to the work or to other options. This is the bike system that you see, and you can go there, and we appreciate that you go there, and to test that it's really implemented in the field and it is working. This is our application that you can make the download. You cannot use, unfortunately, in Barcelona, maybe in the future. But in Cascais you can use and you can test, and you will see that the people start to using the system fully integrated in the mobility. We start this revolution putting a new offer in kind of bus operation. And we start to operate 11 new routes in Cascais region. Why? Because the previous operator, the private operator that make this operation, since today in Cascais, everything will change in 1 of December this year, and then 1 January 2020. I will show you a little bit later. But with this operation that we start in 2016, we change the way that we offer this kind of offer to our citizens. Why? Because in the past we have long routes to offer to the people. Sometimes our citizens take more than 2 hours to make some movements. Imagine a population that is near the hospital, near in line more or less 800 meters. But they need to take the bus, come to Cascais, 6 or 5 kilometers, then return to the hospital. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. This the opposite. And we put there a bus that make this line in 5 minutes. Or in the other side of Cascais, we put a line that we use based in a supermarket. We don't need to build another kind of offers to the citizens. We use the supermarket, the infrastructures of the supermarket, and we take the populations to the train station in 7 minutes. This is the kind of offer that we need to give to the citizens, because if we don't change the way that we offer public transportation, the people will not use. We can see all of us here. We talk about public transportation. 99% of the people that is here came by car, by taxi, by Cabify. Not 99%, 99.9. Who came by public transportation here? Good. What we consider public transportation, taxi? No? Who comes by train or by bus? Okay, it's not 99, it's 80%. But okay, it's more than our 66%. But we need to change really the mindset, but the mindset only can be transformed if we give a good options and a good offer to our citizens. If we don't offer, we will not get the chance. This is not my kid yesterday, make these draws, but what's happened here is the new offer that we will give to all the citizens in Cascais. We will double the offer that we have today. Not the 11 that we built, but the 26 that we already have. We will have 26 plus 2 plus these 11 that we already have. This will start December, latest January, and fully integrated in only one system that we called Mobi Cascais. In our 11 routes, we already transport more than 500,000 people. We use our phone because I talk for myself. If I forget my card ID in my office, I will not return to catch my card ID. But if I forget there my phone, I will return to get my phone. That means the importance is not to say to the public transportation companies or to the metropolitan areas, they need to do very nice monthly fees. No, they need to give the options to the people use their own gadgets that they have now. The phones, the cards, the bank cards, whatever. I don't need to create additional cards to put our wallets even bigger than they are today. We need to put all of these kind of ways to move in a single gadget. Today is a phone. In the future could be another option. But we use the bank system to introduce in our systems. Why? Because in Portugal, we are so advanced that we need to create wallets to give money service to pay our tickets or our low payments that we need. But in Cascais, when we launched this in 2015, we said that we will not create a wallet because we need to put the financial system working in service of the citizens. And now we make an agreement finally with MasterCard, and now we are able to give the opportunity to the citizens to put their card there or their bank account, but easier is our credit card, our debit card, to put there, and I don't need to support 20 cents in 20 cents. I will support, when I pay 20 cents from my street parking, I will support 0.012, whatever. And that means now I use the bank system, the financial system, to give the citizens the opportunity to pay digitally and don't use money, don't use really money to pay this. We believe that the cashless is another solution that we need to improve very fast. This is our parking system. Today, we explore near 8,000 on-street parking. And we have the opportunity to give solutions in off-street, more or less 3,000 places. We use our application, all of these in the single application that we call Mobi Cascais, and we use these to give the chance to people with the same solution to pay, for example, the park, to pay the tickets of the bus, to catch the bikes, to use this in a single system. This is the seamless, the beauty of the system is one system to do everything. Now, in December, we will launch another option to our citizens. All of our citizens will have the opportunity to park in the town for 100 minutes for free. Not in all the zones, with exceptions of the red zones, but our citizens can go to the market, can go to the coffee, to take a coffee for 10 or 15 minutes, and they move on. For 100 minutes for each citizens, and we will manage all the parking system in a real time. This is the way as we need to change the system. Now we start to introducing the electrical scooters for the last 300 meters, 400 meters, half a kilometer. We need to make these kind of solutions. We start to introduce already this year the autonomous vehicle, because we think that the future we will use a lot of these kind of solutions to make the movements in certain areas of the village. And this solution is already implemented in the university, Nova University in Carcavelos, near the train station, and it is really working already. It's the same vehicle that we have here in Barcelona, and it is working. You can use and you can test. The car sharing. The car sharing is not in Cascais used only for your trip that you occasionally need. It is included in the system, the mobility system. You can, for example, in this case, you can pay 10 euros and use 4 hours a month. This is another solution that we need to give to the population, to our citizens. Patients transport is not for urgent cases, but is for programmed cases. It is for non-urgent cases that we need. But if tomorrow I need to go to a certain place to make a kind of exam, I need to request in this. I can request in this application, and in the next day, and the time programmed, the solution go there, take you, and you make everything that you need, and then you retain safety to your home. The EV charging. You know, in Portugal, we are so advanced that in 2007, we built a network, a very advanced network to charge cars. But in 2007, we don't have cars. That means we have a very good system, but we don't have cars to charge. Today, we have cars, but the system is not working very well. What we need to do? But in Cascais, we start to double the solution, they offer the solution, but it's a working solution. We now offer the charging in all the parks that we have. If you have a car, electrical car, go there, and you know 100% that you have power to charge your car. It's the same as when we go to a oil station, a gas station that we have there, something to put in our car to continue our trip. Here is the same thing. We need to learn that we need to give quality of service to our citizens. If we don't give quality of service, the people will not use, the people will not buy electric car, the people will not change really. Another thing that we made in Cascais regarding the electric vehicles pay the street parking in Cascais. Why? Because an electric car is a car. The difference is they are not making pollution in that way, but they create problems in the movements in the cities. And they need to pay as a normal vehicle, because we don't want to give incentives to use a car with one person. We need to give incentives to use a car with 4 or 5 persons, or to give incentives to use the public transportations. The difference in the future to use the public transportation is if I have a plan for the future for a city, or if I make some decisions regarding if it is fashion today, use the bike, then I put a bike. Tomorrow is fashion to use the taxi, I put the taxi. That means I will not take measures that will give options to the citizens for 10 years, for 15 years, or whatever. This is kind of decisions that we need to make for the future. Our application that have all the service integrated, fully integrated in a single system, our package, because today we don't need to go to the university and make a master degree to use the system. Because in the past in Lisbon we have more than 2,000 tickets. When you go, you take maybe half of your vacations to see what kind of products I will choose. Today we have 3 or 4 options, and then you make your decisions very fast. This is the options that we have, fully integrated, as I said. All the system is here. The next move that we will do is yes, I will stop immediately. The integration with the air credits. What is this? The air credits is an option that we will give to the citizens to make the right options regarding the mobility. If we choose the bike instead of a taxi, I will receive a reward for this option because it's better, it's sustainable, and I will not make emissions in this local. The factory that produced the bike already make the emissions for me. That means I will need to reward the citizen in the local that make these options. Our applications. Our technology solutions. We have the call center and a control center that we are doing with Deloitte that give the city the opportunity to manage 24/7, 365 days per year, all these kind of movements that we are doing in Cascais. All the solutions that we use to promote mobility, our control center that we made with Deloitte, our portal, our app, futures developments that now in the field. We cannot increase the traffic speed of the buses, for example, if we don't manage all the traffic lights in a single system. It's not possible to increase the speed. And I need to increase the speed to give a better service to the people that use. The next movements, the electric vehicles that we are introducing. And the traffic, the sensors that we are now putting in the fields to give to the cities the right to make decisions where is the best place to park the car and what is the price that I need to pay. How we support all this system, today, our system is completely supported by the money that all of you pay when park the car in Cascais. But in the future, I will tell you in 30 seconds later how we will support all of this. The access to the town is now doing by this because in the future we will stop some cars to go to the center of the village. The autonomous, and now we will do this in January 2020. We will give free mobility, the citizens of Cascais will not need to pay to use our public system. The system will be completely free. And how we support this? With the money that we receive from the streets, the cars, we will continue increasing this value because you have the option and the right to go there and park your car. But we will have the right to pay a higher price to support the system. This is the way we will do this, and we will give completely free this system in 2020. For now, the bus, but our mayor is working to introduce the train, and that means from Cascais to Carcavelos will be completely free for all the systems. We invite you to join us for this European event that we will have in Cascais. Thank you.
So, do we have any questions to our speakers? Okay, I think we have some. Do we? Oh yeah, we have a question here. May I maybe invite you to take a seat on the podium so we can respond to the questions? It's maybe the most appropriate thing to do. Do we have a microphone? So. Right. Please.
I'd like to question to Deloitte. How do you manage the ecosystem?
Yeah, thank you. So the question for those of you who didn't hear was, how do you manage the ecosystem? Well, it's obviously a difficult task, depending upon the number of players you have. But there are a couple of things that we think are important. One is to manage their participation. It's important to really make sure that you're segmenting with them what they do. I know that, for example, a lot of cities have lots of different transportation vendors that they work with. They're scooter manufacturers, they're bike manufacturers, and so forth. And each of those groups may operate in different areas of the city, provide different types of services, and looking at your service needs and then sort of working across those service needs and to determine what each one of those partners is doing, and making sure that you don't have a lot of capacity here and none over there and so forth is an important part of it. But the other thing that's important is many of these ecosystem partners that you work with come with their own technology systems. And that becomes somewhat complicated because they all have an app or a data analytics capability. And so now every time you make a decision for a different ecosystem partner, you're getting a lot of new data. And so this is why I was focused on building a data governance platform so that you can plug in the data and the apps from all of the different vendors, potentially bring them together in a great way like Cascais did and make it a single interface for your citizens. But you don't want to lose access to that data because the data is what gives you the information you need to manage them overall. So I think building that infrastructure where you can house the data and making it open so that the systems that these ecosystem partners bring with them can be integrated into the system to give you that information is super important.
Thank you very much. Further questions for Debbie and Rui?
I have a question, but it's to Cascais. It's two questions. I was wondering, how do you manage the system? I assume it's like one system that's managed by either the city or the public transport authority, for example. And the other question would be actually also related to what Deloitte just said. How did you get there? Because from our experience, we're trying to do something similar in Oslo. Operators are not always willing to openly share their data or give access to the data they gather. And on top of that, so it's three questions. How do you, did you select one? I saw you had like Zurich for the electric scooters, for example, or do you leave the market open to them and just require them to share the data in order to operate in your area? Sorry, a lot of questions.
No, for you.
Okay. You know that in cities, I come from the telecommunications market in the past. And in telecommunications market, we have standards. But in the cities, we have a lot of standards. That means we don't have standards. Everything make their own solutions. And then in the end, we have problems for the decision makers. But in the case of the mobility in 2015, the mayor take this decision. In one area, he creates an authority, and in the other area, create an internal operator. And because of 2015, the authority for the buses passed to the municipalities. The mayor has the chance to say to all the operators, you need to respect these rules. If you don't respect these rules, we catch your permit to give public transportation to the citizens. That means in that day, we changed the rules and we said to all the players that you need to respect these rules and to make all the integrations to this system. And we manage all the system in the city, in the municipality, in the village, in a single system with the same rules for everybody. And the same applies to the Lisbon area. We are doing this in Cascais, but we are fully integrated in the whole metropolitan area. That means in Cascais, with my card, I can move from Cascais to Oeiras, to Sintra, to Lisbon, to Almada, to wherever, in a single system. And in this case, all the private operators need to open their databases and give the information to the single system, and then the people has an easy way to receive their information. But of course, we need to make another decisions and another movements. Why? Because Lisbon has a system based in Calypso, and we need to move to the NFC-based to allow to the phones, to the cards, the bank cards, to use the same as London, as some bases in Madrid, or the test, the New York City starts in June with 5 lines in metro. We need to do this. And regarding the scooters, we opened the market, but with some rules. It's more or less the time as Ford start to build the cars. You can choose all the colors, black, right? You choose all, but need to be black. In this case, all the scooters companies can give the service, but they need to be integrated in the system. They need to open their data to all the citizens. If they do this, they can make the service. If they don't do this, they cannot make the service. Another difference, they give the service, but they need to pay a fee to the city to modernize the infrastructures of the city. This is another change that we implement in Cascais. And all of this mix, I think in the end, in 2020, we will start really to see the difference to the mobility of the citizens of Cascais. I think so.
Well, thank you very much. Further questions for Rui and Debbie? Please, Jacob.
Good morning.
Morning.
I think I need to do a follow-up question based on the answer that came from Rui. From Rui, yes. In terms of data, as you were saying, that service providers will have to open up on the data and give it to the government and all that. Then there comes an issue of data protection. Then there comes an issue of IP, intellectual property of the data. Who owns the data from there on? And whose responsibility for the protection of that data? Because if my data that I've provided into a service provider, and then now all of a sudden the government have data that I didn't give to them, there's an issue there. So can I please have an answer on those two? Thank you.
You know, I'm not a lawyer, but in this case, sorry if I will not answer as a political standard. I will give you my opinion, and I will tell you what we have been doing and the kind of challenge that we need to pass. Because we suffer with this. When we make the first meeting in Lisbon, in the past, not now, in the past, with the system, the Lisbon system, we have a responsible at the time. She said the same thing that is in your question. Because we go there and we said, we want to belong to the Lisbon system. But we need to give the information to our customers, to our citizens. You believe that is normal, that we are all invited to come this session. But imagine that we had a problem and we cannot be here at the time that we schedule. You don't think that is normal? Every one of us receive an SMS, an email saying that the meeting will not start at 9:30 and will start at 10:30. It's normal, right? Okay. And it's not a law, it's a kind of good sense, right? And that means we start to do this approach to Lisbon, and we said, we need to receive this information to give good information to the people. We cannot. It's a kind of data protection. And I ask why? What data protection? I don't want to sell a fridge. I don't want to sell an ice cream to a people that need to go to buy train. I want to give in information that they don't need to go to the train because they have a problem. It's not a kind of data protection because I don't want to control your trip. I don't care if you go to your house and then go to no. I only need to know data to make the right decisions to give you a better service. And in our decision making, we start from the solutions and then we solve the problems. Because, sorry for the lawyers, but if I give in the hand of the lawyers the solution, forget, because I will not have a car. I will have an animal that will push the car. And we need to make the right options to give the right services to the people. If I will be in this place only thinking that I will not respect this law, this law, this law, I will not make any kind of decision. You have one guy that said this, is the Deutsche Telekom officer in US, said company giving to the lawyers and to the human resources will be the bankruptcy very quickly. But it's only my opinion. I apologize this opinion, but it's the way that we are doing and the way that we can allow the problems.
What you say actually highlights, really, I think both of you, what you just said, highlights the two key trends that we have to deal with in the future. And the one is that transportation questions turn themselves into tech questions. That's the API issue. And the other part is that transportation questions, the more important they're getting, are merging, morphing themselves into policy and governance questions. Right. For the sake of time, unfortunately, we'll have to keep it here, but I suggest first to put our hands together once more for Debbie and Rui, and then...
Thank you.
And then please join us for the coffee break and continue the discussion over coffee, please. And I suggest we're back in here at 10:35 for the panel on the digitization of mobility, transport modes, policies, and business models. Thank you very much. See you at 10:35.
Well, good morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Carlos Casas. I'm from FGC, the regional railways company based here in Barcelona. And I'm going to be the moderator of this roundtable, which links to the subjects that we have been hearing before. And I would like especially to connect with the last comment from our chairman, Mr. Bätzner. He said that the question of transportation is becoming a question of technology, and also the question of transportation is becoming a question of governance. And that's precisely what this round session is tackling under the title of digitization of mobility, transport modes, policies, and business models. And to deal with this subject, we have a wide panel with professional experts coming from all over the world, and I think it's going to be very interesting to hear their different perspectives. As I said, I'm the moderator, so I'm not supposed to talk so long, and I'm going to already introduce the first of our speakers in this table. His name is Jacob Bansgaard. He's the CEO of and president of the MAS Alliance and also Ertico, based in Brussels. He's for those who doesn't know, Ertico is a multi-platform, multi-sector platform with 120 partners from more than 25 countries, based in Brussels. And he's also, as I said, the president of the MAS Alliance, the Mobility as a Service Alliance. Probably most of you already know about it, and the documents and all the work that they've been doing is well known. It's a public-private partnership looking for a common approach on mobility as a service concept. So please, Mr. Bansgaard, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for this introduction, and good morning, everyone. I'm going to follow up a bit on what was presented to you from both Deloitte and Cascais, because it's very much in the heart of what we do in Ertico, where we exactly work with this ecosystem, which was mentioned several times. This ecosystem that we have 8 different sectors, 120 partners, working on making mobility cleaner, safer, and more efficient. And I'm going to tell you a bit about how we do this. So first of all, we have a lot of challenges in today's society. We heard that also from Deloitte, that the challenges ahead in the cities, the challenges of digitalization of the mobility sector, the challenges of having a mobility system which is more and more connected, more automated, more electrified, cross-border, cross-sector corporations, and user-centric, not least. This is something that we work on. We call this in Ertico the Internet of Mobility. You're welcome to use this. And we do this both for people and goods, because we work in both areas, and we see very much the same kind of approaches being needed in both transport of people and goods. We have in this a lot of challenges. Some of these challenges are related to the transformation from standalone system to integrated solutions, where you need the stakeholders to cooperate together. We are moving into, as I mentioned, a more connected, automated, cooperative mobility world, where systems need to communicate across the modes. And we also look ahead on what kind of communication technologies do we need to adjust to in the future, because it's not enough to look at what we have today. There's a constant transition in the system that we need to be aware of, and we therefore work with the technologies providers, with the system integrators, to look at what is coming next and how can we adjust to that. We heard about the data privacy, data security, and the data sharing, not least. We heard all this in the last session, and this is of course something that we deal a lot with, and it's something that, especially for the sharing part, what is the benefit for sharing your data? What can you benefit from accessing new data? And this is how we work with our stakeholders. User acceptance and trust is something we will work more and more on when it comes to automation. It's something that we worked a lot on when it came to safety technologies in vehicles, to get the acceptance of more automated systems in your vehicle, the acceptance of more data collection when you travel. And for the automation, it will be key that people trust when they let the technology take over control, and therefore we will start more and more activities in this field. User-centric, I will say a bit more about why the user-centric approach becomes more and more relevant for us. You heard also this morning about disruption. You heard about revolution. I've said something about transformation. And this is actually, the way we see it, it's not the disruptive technologies we work with. It's the way that the users are taking on board new systems and services. So it's the way they use these technologies. There's nothing. The scooters have been there for many, many years. Electric vehicles have been there for many years. Sharing has been there for many years. But it's the new way that people are looking at mobility as, maybe I don't need to own the assets. Maybe I just need to access the service. And this is something that is happening quite late in the area of mobility. It's a transition that has happened in other areas. We know it from music, from movies, etc., the way we use television today. And it's very much subscription-based services where you just need access to it anytime, anywhere. And the same is happening in mobility. We call it mobility as a service. The ecosystem in mobility as a service is quite complicated, because we heard also about how the cities are working with different stakeholders, different actors in the mobility system. They're putting together consortia or packages and services to the consumers. And what we found out was we need to create some kind of platform where we try to exchange information on what is needed in this field, instead of letting Cascais and other cities spend all the effort on trying to develop a single solution for one city in Portugal. We were thinking, what if we could actually work together with cities, with service providers, with technology providers, and look at how can we create a European model for this, and not let Uber and others do all the groundwork and spend all the money for all of us. What if we together was doing this work? So, of course, we have partners in the Mars Alliance that has spent a lot of effort on negotiating city by city, country by country throughout Europe, and then moving on to the US, then to Japan. And it's a huge work. And therefore we said to the European Commission and to all the stakeholders, why don't we try first to get this dealt with in Europe? Why don't we create this Mars Alliance? And then we have now moved into US, Japan, and Korea, and we work on a global level, Australia. So we started 3 companies saying, let's try to see what we can do in this. And today we are more than 80 organizations in this, cities, operators, technology providers, etc. And we also hear sometimes that Mars is a buzzword. It's something that's good to have, but it's actually happening today. It's happening in many cities. Some Mars solutions are not what we call Mars solutions because it's not open systems. It's just a combination of a couple of different mobility services. But what we are looking at as Mars is where you have one access point for the planning, the booking, the payment, and the travel. And therefore, this is happening around in Europe. It is happening on a global level, not to the speed that many would like. And that is basically because of a lot of regulation issues that we have today with data sharing and others that I will just say a few words about. What we're all looking for is to find something which is more convenient than owning your asset, as I mentioned. So it's more convenient than sitting in your car. And the success of the car is killing itself a bit with more and more cars on the road, so more and more congestion, then it becomes less and less convenient to sit in your car. But at the same time, it is all the time the competition that we're looking at, the first last mile solution. And we see more and more players in this field, and I saw Seat here with their electric scooters as well. We have seen other manufacturers. Here's Hyundai in the picture as well. So it's more and more new actors that we work with, but also the transformation that is happening within our traditional actors, the OEMs, for instance, that we have worked with for 30 years on mobility solutions. When you have the disruption, you have some new players in the field, but you also have some who feels disrupted. And that is creating a lot of resistance in the system. That's creating a lot of policy pressure on what we do. Do we really want to bring in these new services? This is not good for our city, and so on and so forth. And this is something, of course, we are very much aware of, that we need to embrace innovation, but we need to do it in a sustainable way, in a safe way. And we need to work with the existing mobility system to make sure that we don't get this very strong resistance in developing innovation for the users. We saw it with the dockless bike sharing. We've seen it with the conflict between Ubers and taxis. And we are also looking at how can we heard about MasterCard. We would like to have players like MasterCard to have one token for the mobility instead of each city having their own plastic card or their own subscription. So roaming, like we know it with our mobile phone, we can use it here. Even we have a subscription in Finland. This is what we would like to do also in the mobility side. Last, I would like to say that you often hear about we need to change the behavior of the traveler, the consumer. And this is something that I'm personally very much against. I think you would never hear Spotify say, we need to change the behavior of those listening to music. You give them a better offer and they will stop going down and buy the CD and they will make a subscription with your service instead. So we have to have the adequate infrastructure to actually be able to use the new mobility services, both physical and digital. We need the political will to embrace innovation and to be part of this. And we heard that from Cascais. They are very much in the forefront of this, in the political thinking of embracing new services. We need to re-regulate old-fashioned regulation that is not based for electric scooters and others. We need to make incentives both for the industries to offer new services to the cities and the end users. And we need to work with this ecosystem all together and share both data and expectations. because there's a lot of other things coming in the future. We have just seen some of the new mobility services coming. You see a glimpse of the future in congresses here, or the ITS Congress that Ertico is organizing. And we know we had in Singapore last month, we had our World Congress, and we had drones flying, passenger drones flying in the city or in the city center of Singapore. So a lot of new things coming. Last week I was looking at Hyperloop in southern France. There are a lot of things coming in the future, and therefore we need to be prepared, and we need to open our arms for these innovations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vanguard. Now we'll have time for questions and discussion afterwards amongst the four members of the panel and the public. Now we'd like to invite Cyril Baloyi. He comes from the city of Johannesburg. He's the Group Chief Technology Officer and responsible for collaborating, consolidating, and centralizing the city's entire ICT landscape to reduce systems and process duplications and accelerate citizen ambitions by providing efficient ICTS solutions. So please welcome Mr. Baloyi to the stage.
Good morning, all. Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning. In Africa, the first thing you do is to greet. Even if you meet a stranger on the road, you greet them. That's how it works. I'm going to present about how does digital transformation impact our citizens, especially for us as a developing country, while trying to create a developmental state. My presentation might be a bit different to what you have seen so far, because I've got different challenges than what you have here in Europe or internationally. So what we need to do or look at is the city of Johannesburg. It's one of the most critical cities for the country or for the Southern Hemisphere in terms of Africa. It's responsible for 20% GDP of the country, of South Africa. I don't know how many of you have gone to South Africa so far, or how many of you have gone to Africa, because there's a notion that Africa is just one big country, and it is not. It's very diverse and it's very different. For me, I've been so fortunate that I've worked for more than 6, 7 different African countries, and once in my life I worked at Reading for a year under Symantec. But however, let's come back to what we're discussing today. So the key thing that we are seeing is everybody talks about this smart city on a day-to-day basis, and it becomes a very vibrant weight that everyone needs to adhere to. But the question that we always ask ourselves is, are we ready as a country to be able to adopt this 4th industrial revolution or the smart city concept? Are our people now on the 3rd industrial revolution, or they're still on the 1st? Because how do you move to the 4th without bringing up the people from the 1st to the 2nd? So what we are looking at as a city is, how do we ensure that when we transform our city, we bring our people along in terms of the economy, in terms of social development and community development? Because we've got different challenges than moving away from a 1st industrial revolution to a 4th industrial revolution. So the key factor that I always ask is, are we measuring the right things for us to get the results that we want? That becomes the key part of how do we move forward. So I'm going to give you a broad view of how the government structure looks like in the city of Johannesburg in terms of it reporting into a provincial government and also reporting into a national government. So the city, my city is a Category A city. It's a metropolitan city. It's got 5.5 million people in the city. It's not a very big city in terms of kilometers, but it's got 5.5 million people in the city. It's responsible, as I said earlier, 20% GDP of the country, so it becomes key. So if Joburg sneezes, the whole country sneezes. I'm sure all of you are aware that we were attacked. We had a cyber attack on the 24th of October. I happened to have to go and report that to the president. I was summoned to the president's office to go and explain what happened. I don't really know what was I supposed to explain, because I was called the following day to say, come and explain. And I said, look, I still need to investigate and understand what happened, what hit us, so I can be able to come and give you facts instead of just coming and give you fictitious information. So this is how the city is structured. We are sitting on category A as a metropolitan city. I think Rui also mentioned that the challenge that you also sometimes have is politics, because as a city you are managed by politicians. There's a mayor, there's councillors from different political parties, and our city is a bit different because it's not managed by one party. In terms of the ANC or the DA or the EFF, it's a multi-party government. So you've got different political ideologies that get shared on a day-to-day basis, and you still need to deliver based on those ideologies. The key factor here that we need to look at is how do we promote safe and healthy environment supporting the national government. So we've got something that we call an integrated scorecard on what you need to look at in terms of how do you ensure that you deliver on your integrated development program. Something happened here. Let's see, okay. I think I can fix. Is it me or is it you there? Okay. Go to the next slide. Go to the next one, yes, leave it here. So the challenges that we are faced with as a city in terms of how do we adopt into a digital city or smart city, we need to ensure that we facilitate the creation of job and economic opportunities. You are all aware that our country is sitting on 30% youth unemployment currently. So when we talk about fourth industrial revolution, we talk about creating new robots to be able to make life easy and provide effective services. But at the same time, how do you ensure that while creating that, you do not create this burden of job unemployment? You do not take people out of work. How do you deploy the people that you are moving away using technology to ensure that they also become part of the economy? So those are the challenges that we have. And South Africa is a very unionized country. So even if you want to implement a solution, unions get involved. You must explain to them how your solution is going to ensure that you do not create this thing of job unemployment, especially for the youth. So it becomes a very difficult challenge. The other issue that we need to ensure of is the issue of governance and compliance. You all are aware that our country has been hit by a lot of corruption in the past, and the current government is trying to deal with those corruption. So the issue of governance and compliance is very critical on what you are doing. And at the same time, it plays a key role on how do you ensure that when you digitalize, you do not find yourself being on the wrong side of the regulation, being on the wrong side of the compliance. At the same time, building a safe and a healthy city. The city of Johannesburg is not the same as other municipalities, if I can call it like that, or metropolitan cities. It's the only city that has got 13 companies within itself that works on their own as their own entities. And that brings a very big challenge, especially for me on my role, to ensure that I consolidate, centralize the whole ICT spectrum. Because currently what we have, those MOEs, we call them municipal-owned entities. So everyone around those 13 entities, they've got their own IT contracts. They've got their own service providers who are saying, I'll give you a digital solution, I'll give you a smart city solution. My challenge is how do I combine all of those together? We have created forums where we all work together to try and centralize all that. But you must also understand that there's an issue of human behavior in this process, whereby people don't want to let go of some of the functions that they are using, for whatever reason that might be. Vendor management operations. You've got lots of vendors, as I think Deb touched on that, to say you've got lots of vendors that comes to you and say, I'll give you a solution, I'll give you that, I'll give you that. It's the same problem here. Out of all the 13th, including ourselves as core, that is happening. My job is to ensure that I combine and consolidate all of this together to come up with a one core solution. The challenge is human behavior. That becomes a key part. And I think Deb also mentioned that IT is not smart city. Smart city depends on the human behavior, the attitude around what people are doing, the functions of the choice that they take on a day-to-day basis. It then drills down into the issue of MSA and SLAs with a master service agreement or service level agreement, which also becomes an issue in terms of how do you move forward. Then you need to decide whether you want to use cloud or hybrid cloud. And in South Africa, it's a bit difficult now because in the country, in terms of national government, there's no policy that tells you how do you want to move in terms of cloud. Because, for example, you'll be told that financial information cannot move within the borders of the country. It becomes a challenge. How do you ensure that you move into a proper cloud environment? At the end of the day, those are the services that we are trying to provide to ensure that we have a citizen-centric service delivery approach. Then there comes the president. Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa says, I want fourth industrial revolution in my country. The challenge then becomes to say, how do I ensure that in terms of ensuring that sustainability still becomes a key part of how do we move forward while implementing your fourth industrial revolution? The solutions or the challenges that we have is in South Africa, you don't have use cases like Rui was saying. I don't have those kind of use cases that he has for us to be able to understand how do you build SOPs to be able to move forward. There's a lot of customization. There's a lot of overshoot on timeline and cost. And sometimes, to be honest, the vendors are not being able to be fair with us and being honest, because each and every vendor will come and tell you what they want to deliver, but not looking at what you have and how do you be able to move forward. I think I'm told I'm run out of time. I'll try and move as much as I can. Those are the drivers that we have as a city that drives us. The GDS have already spoken about it, the IDP, the enterprise-wide government, which is an enterprise GUA that the government uses, that we all have to abide into. Our main goal in terms of ICT transformation is to deliver a citywide center of excellence that will be able to be consolidated into one operating platform. I actually like this picture. This is the picture I took in 2016 while I was in Nigeria working for MTN. This is how the city looks like. Even in Johannesburg, this is how the city looks like. How do we ensure that you come up with solutions like a bike lane? We do have a bike lane in Johannesburg. Nobody's using it. It's there. Nobody's using it. Human behavior becomes a critical part of how do you move forward. That is the challenge that we have. Our challenges are very difficult when it comes to that. Green consciousness, I'm not going to talk about that going forward. The other challenge is you've got a young population and an older population. And at the same time, you're expected to create wealth within the two population. You need to be able to bridge a digital divide between the two. This becomes a very crucial part in terms of social issues. This is how South Africa looks like. This is the haves, this is the have-not. These are shacks, these are suburbs. There's internet there, there's Wi-Fi and everything, there is no Wi-Fi there. What we are trying to do now is how do we bridge that digital divide between the two by providing technology solution into that market. Because what we have seen is those people can pay for DSTV, but they can't pay for electricity. So those are some of the challenges that you need to look at to ensure that you bring those people in. Because in South Africa, people are saying the basic needs must be provided for free: water, lights, and sanitation. So how do you bring that together using technology? What we have done so far is we have looked at the environment and find that everything was isolated. We have already connected all that, integrated together, and building one solution for all. This will be able to enable us to be able to deliver on these 6 key factors that we want to deliver. So far, some of this we have already delivered on them. We have created hubs with the University of Wits University to try and start teaching people how to do programming. There are people who have left school when they were still young. We're teaching them how to do programming so that we can have different developers in the future going forward, because the job of tomorrow will change to the current job of today. Then later, we should be able to provide a city that is safe. In terms of safety, what we have done so far is we have created a center called Integrated Intelligent Operations Center, where we've got cameras all over the city of Johannesburg. When something happens, we have deployed a new unit in terms of our police department called K9 unit. IIOC, they get a call from the call center or the center to tell them there's an issue there, and that is doing very well. Every month, we are providing statistics. Last week, Wednesday, the chief of police did provide those statistics to everyone. Because of time, I won't be able to give you what I wanted to give you, but at the end of the day, what we have seen in the city of Johannesburg is we are lagging behind in terms of making sure that we move into a digital space much quicker than what is happening now. This is just a report that tells you that in years, 50 million people in specific years, they were able to have access to radio, TV, internet, Facebook, and application. It takes everyone 50 days to be able to access one application, which means that everyone going forward has a mobile device. 1 in 3 people in South Africa has a mobile device. But the challenge that we have as a city is how do we support them to ensure that the services that we provide to them becomes more digital than the manual process that it is today. Then this is one of my interesting and favorite slides, and it's the last slide, Mr. Timekeeper. The question that I always ask people is, when you wake up in the morning, what is the first thing that you do? What is the first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning? You don't kiss your wife or husband. Let's be honest. What is the first thing that you do? It's your cell phone. So which means the only way that we can be able to provide a proper service to each and every person is to ensure that the service that we are providing, it becomes digital and it's available to them each and every time of their life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baloyi. Now we are going to cross the Atlantic and move to Argentina to hear Ms. Carolina Pazos. The next 2 speakers are going to speak in Spanish, so those of you that need headphones, please take them. She's the Director of Investigation, Innovation and Control of the initiative País Digital from the government of Argentina, and as we are short of time, we keep speaking from the seats, so I give her the floor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Buenos días. Gracias por la presentación, Carles. Gracias por compartir este panel. Es un gusto para mí también compartir la experiencia de Argentina en términos de movilidad y también los desafíos que tenemos para poder implementar estas políticas a lo largo y a lo ancho de todo nuestro país. Voy a hacer una breve introducción. Argentina es un país de Latinoamérica con más de 40 millones de habitantes, en una superficie de casi 3 millones de kilómetros cuadrados, y contamos con 2.200 municipios, un poco más de 2.200 ciudades a lo largo de todo el territorio, lo que genera un gran desafío porque estas ciudades son muy heterogéneas entre sí. Tenemos ciudades de menos de 1.000 habitantes y ciudades de millones de habitantes con gran concentración y gran urbanización. De estos 2.200 municipios, solo 125 ciudades concentran casi el 80% de la población, ¿sí? El 75%, con lo cual esto es todo un reto a la hora de implementar políticas de transporte en cada una de estas ciudades. En el año 2015, a través de un decreto presidencial, se creó un nuevo ministerio llamado Ministerio de Modernización, cuyo desafío fue llevar soluciones, llevar políticas de modernización a cada uno de los gobiernos locales, a cada una de estas 2.200 ciudades del país. Políticas distintas de diversas temáticas, diversas dimensiones, comenzando por lo que era el eje de gobierno y también ejes de movilidad, de economía, de planeamiento urbano, etc. Nosotros ahí entendimos que había 2 primeros pasos que debíamos establecer, que debíamos implementar. Por un lado, entender cuál era el estado de situación del país en términos generales para todas estas ciudades, con lo cual se elaboró un diagnóstico inicial para saber cuáles eran las principales políticas o los principales pasos que debíamos implementar. Y por otro lado, necesitábamos una fuerte política de conectividad, un gran avance en términos de infraestructura tecnológica. Cuando establecimos el diagnóstico, cuando empezamos a analizar las ciudades, tomamos una muestra, en realidad tomamos todas las ciudades de más de 5.000 habitantes, y los resultados que arrojó este primer análisis no fueron del todo satisfactorios. En una escala que establecimos de 1 a 10, el promedio de las ciudades estaban en un promedio de 2 puntos. Esto quería decir que casi un 90% de las ciudades no tenían una página web, o bien tenían una página pero estaba muy desactualizada, con contenidos estancos que justamente no se podía transaccionar con el ciudadano. Pocos eran los trámites que se podían hacer en línea, un 7% solamente de las páginas que estaban disponibles en el país podían establecer o daban esta posibilidad de realizar trámites a través de la web. No había políticas de conectividad pública, ¿sí? Solo un 2% de las ciudades contaban con Wi-Fi gratuito en espacios públicos. Lo mismo en términos de transparencia. No estaba disponible, dentro de la página web las posibilidades de transparentar la gestión de cada uno de los locales, de las ciudades, perdón. Y también era muy bajo el índice de participación ciudadana. No había incentivos para que el ciudadano participe en la toma de decisiones para llevar a cabo esas políticas públicas. Por otro lado, cuando analizábamos el estado de situación de la conectividad del país, en el 2015 había 6.500 kilómetros de fibra óptica que alcanzaban a 17 ciudades y con una velocidad de 4,5 mega. Y bueno, hoy en día hemos podido ampliar esta red de fibra óptica alcanzando 30.000 kilómetros, alcanzando más de 900 ciudades y una velocidad de 17 megabytes. En términos de 4G, una situación similar, teníamos el 70% de la población alcanzada y hoy tenemos ya un 92% de la población que pueden disponer de tecnología 4G. Con lo cual, en el término de estos últimos 4 años, entendíamos que para hablar de cualquier tipo de plataforma que soporte políticas de movilidad inteligente, deberíamos mejorar, por un lado, el estado de situación de infraestructura general de las ciudades y, por otro lado, también el estado de situación de la infraestructura en términos de conectividad. Más allá de esta situación, muchas ciudades comenzaron a trabajar sobre políticas de movilidad, ¿sí? Siempre entendiendo que aquellas ciudades que más avanzadas están en términos de movilidad son aquellas que más avanzadas también pudieron estar en términos de conectividad y de infraestructura. Con lo cual, les traigo el caso de la ciudad de Buenos Aires, que en estos momentos cuenta con casi 3 millones de habitantes y diariamente ingresan a la ciudad otros 3 millones por diversos temas, por estudio, por actividades laborales, etcétera, con lo cual hay una gran rotación de personas en términos diarios que necesitan transportarse de un lugar a otro. La ciudad de Buenos Aires logró establecer una política de movilidad multimodal. Es la única ciudad del país que cuenta con con diferentes tipos de transporte. La mayoría de las ciudades argentinas son monomodales, o sea, cuentan solo con bus. Buenos Aires tiene, aparte del bus, transporte terrestre, o sea, ferrocarriles, tiene subtes, un incipiente bicisendas, bicicletas, scooters eléctricos incipientes, pero ha logrado establecer también centros de transbordo, ¿sí? Diagramar lugares céntricos en donde se pueda combinar distintas modalidades de transporte, y también logró establecer en términos generales una tarjeta electrónica con la cual uno puede abonar cada uno de los transportes que vaya tomando, ¿sí? Para poder trasladarse. Podríamos decir hoy que el 70% de la población que se mueve dentro del territorio de Buenos Aires lo hace en algún punto, utilizando algún tipo de transporte público, y solo el 30% utiliza o sigue utilizando el transporte privado. Dentro de lo que es el transporte multimodal, El 75% utiliza el bus. Buenos Aires ha logrado establecer varias redes de metrobús, carriles exclusivos para que se transporte de colectivos, ¿sí? Esto acelera los tiempos, disminuye el tiempo de traslado de un punto a otro. Por eso la gran mayoría de la población se vuelca al uso del transporte de bus, del metrobús. Y un 13% en subte. Hoy en día el metrobús transporta 1.200.000 habitantes diarios, ¿sí?, que utilizan este medio de transporte. Con lo cual, aparte de la ciudad de Buenos Aires, hay otras ciudades que están iniciando este tipo de políticas en el país, como la ciudad de Mendoza, como la ciudad de Neuquén. Mendoza ha realizado convenios con municipios nexos, ¿sí? Tiene lo que se llama un contrato, una mirada más regional en términos de planificación, de movilidad, con lo cual estas redes, ya sea de metrobús o de bicicletas, se planifican de forma integrada con el resto de los municipios aledaños y de manera más metropolitana, ¿sí? En estos términos, Mendoza también ha logrado avanzar mucho y ahora, como les comentaba, también la ciudad de Neuquén. Con lo cual, los desafíos que quedan para el país de aquí a cara a los próximos años son, por un lado, tomar la decisión política en términos locales en relación a los altos costos que todavía debemos implementar para poder seguir avanzando en cuanto a la infraestructura física o a la infraestructura de conectividad. Entendemos que sobre esto se soporta cualquier otra plataforma o cualquier otra aplicación sobre la cual podamos establecer estas políticas de movilidad. También necesitamos desarrollar un marco regulatorio, ¿sí?, para poder convocar al sector público y privado y trabajar en forma conjunta para el desarrollo y de cada uno de estos proyectos de movilidad. Y en paralelo, y no menor, la promoción cultural para lograr este cambio cultural en la ciudadanía y establecer políticas que sean más sustentables, ¿sí?, establecer este cambio para el uso de movilidad pública sobre el uso de la movilidad privada. Identificar luego cuáles son cada una de las soluciones más adecuadas para cada una de las ciudades, entendiendo que realmente las ciudades son muy heterogéneas entre sí y seguramente no habrá un único plan de movilidad que podamos establecer de manera similar en todas las ciudades de nuestro país, con lo cual ese también es un gran trabajo, entendiendo la problemática de cada una de las ciudades en cuanto a densidad y desafíos económicos, etcétera. Con lo cual, sobre eso es sobre lo que más estamos trabajando hoy en Argentina. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Carolina. Thank you very much. Now, we're going to give the floor to the next speaker. Here's the tool. He's Mr. Bruno Espinar from Renfe. He's been more than 12 years developing his activities in this company. He's the head of Mobility 4.0 and Digital Innovation at Renfe, and he's going to speak us to the new concept that they are developing of Renfe as a service, which links to the mobility as a service that we saw before.
Gracias a la organización por invitarnos. Buenos días a todos. Quería comenzar haciendo unas reflexiones. Esta semana hemos lanzado una prueba de concepto muy disruptiva dentro de nuestra compañía y luego, después de estas reflexiones, os quería presentar un pequeño vídeo de 1 minuto y contaros un poco cuáles son nuestros planes en cuanto a las soluciones de movilidad integral para la ciudadanía en los próximos meses. Quería comentar al principio hacer algunas reflexiones sobre la manera en la que nos movemos actualmente y cómo los cambios sociales están generando nuevos modelos de negocio y nuevas opciones de movilidad como servicio. Uno de los nichos de mayor crecimiento económico en nuestro tiempo es sin duda el sector de la movilidad. Este nuevo ecosistema de actores de la movilidad está en plena efervescencia y en buena medida la irrupción de la tecnología en el sector está revolucionando todo este concepto y ha permitido construir, como decía, modelos de negocio que antes eran inviables. Grandes corporaciones, fondos de inversión, startups tecnológicas se convierten en fabricantes y suministradores de componentes, en operadores de alquiler por minutos de vehículos híbridos y eléctricos, con o sin conductor, de uso compartido, o incluso se transforman en plataformas masivas de servicios de transporte y logística, llegando a proponer modelos colaborativos donde cualquier cliente se puede convertir en prestador mismo del servicio. En esta explosión del sector, incluso empresas nativas de otros sectores como la construcción o la energía están participando en filiales para luchar por un pedazo de este apetitoso pastel. La necesidad de movernos ha formado parte de la historia de la humanidad y siempre ha constituido un gran laboratorio para científicos, ingenieros, inventores y conquistadores, donde la innovación técnica y tecnológica ha provocado saltos cualitativos. La diferencia ahora, como comentaba antes, reside en la manera en la que nos movemos. Y no solo me refiero a la evolución del medio de transporte o a una mayor conciencia ética y cívica sobre la gestión sostenible del medio ambiente, sino más bien al cambio de nuestros hábitos sociales y de consumo, a la necesidad de inmediatez y al valor del tiempo. Respecto al valor del tiempo, ahora mismo nuestras ciudades, sabemos, somos conscientes, lo sufrimos en muchos aspectos los ciudadanos. Nuestras ciudades no paran de crecer y cada vez residimos más lejos de nuestros lugares de trabajo y de ocio, también consumiendo muchas horas en desplazamientos diarios. El valor del tiempo, ahora mismo, yo creo que estaremos todos de acuerdo, es uno de los principales valores más apreciados, ¿no?, dentro de nuestra sociedad actual. Tiempo para ser productivos, tiempo para descansar, para divertirnos, pero sobre todo tiempo para disfrutar de nuestros seres queridos. Y en este contexto, el concepto de movilidad como servicio aporta un valor tremendamente relevante. La movilidad como servicio nace de la economía colaborativa y de la economía de plataforma, una tendencia imparable que invade todos los ámbitos de nuestra vida desde hace pocos años, aunque parece que ha pasado ya una eternidad. Airbnb, Netflix, Spotify, Amazon, hay cientos de empresas de servicios y plataformas que nos ofrecen soluciones a nuestras necesidades para que las consumamos temporalmente, pagando por su tiempo de uso. Dejamos de ser, en definitiva, consumidores de productos para ser suscriptores de servicios personalizados que nos convierten, en definitiva, en usuarios de todo y en dueños de nada. En tan solo 9 años, el porcentaje de adolescentes que obtiene el carnet de conducir se ha reducido en un 50%. Hoy en día los jóvenes prefieren el último iPhone antes que ser propietarios de un vehículo. Y es que hoy sus opciones de movilidad se han multiplicado. En este contexto, la gestión de la seguridad y privacidad de nuestros datos representa uno de los grandes retos del modelo y su garantía una prioridad para el regulador. Si hoy tenemos alternativas más eficientes que se adaptan mejor a nuestras necesidades en términos de ahorro, tiempo y comodidad, ¿qué puede fallar? Sobre la figura del regulador, quería comentar que, lógicamente, cuando existe una necesidad, primero surge la necesidad y luego el servicio, ¿no?, y finalmente la regulación. En este sentido, antes de su regulación, hemos vivido algunas crisis en el sector, como la del taxi y VTC o la de los patinetes recientemente en Madrid o en Barcelona, y esto ha dejado de manifiesto que esta ausencia de regulación hace inviable el orden del espacio público, y esto puede provocar irremediablemente graves accidentes o incluso lamentar algún fallecido, ¿no?, como hemos tenido que lamentar. La regulación debe ser favorecedora y aceleradora de las soluciones de movilidad más ecológicas y menos contaminantes, pero también deben garantizar un modelo sostenible de crecimiento urbano. El papel del regulador también debe favorecer iniciativas privadas que sumen a un modelo sostenible. En este punto quería comentar brevemente la estrategia que tenemos como operador ferroviario de convertirnos en operador integral de movilidad. Somos una empresa de unos 15.000 trabajadores con una edad media de 58 años y eso nos posiciona frente a la competencia en un mal lugar, porque nuestra competencia son empresas nativas, digitales, con una estructura de costes muy contenida y, por tanto, el reto que tenemos como empresa es transformarnos para poder competir y aprovechar nuestras fortalezas como ventaja competitiva, ¿no? Hemos iniciado un proceso de transformación digital muy agresivo, donde estamos incorporando desde nuevos canales de relación con los clientes, elementos de sensorización y de análisis de todos los datos que recogen esos sensores, y tenemos el firme convencimiento de que nuestra estrategia como empresa pasa por convertirnos en un proveedor de servicios de movilidad. Por tanto, hemos iniciado ese proceso de transformación. Tenemos una aceleradora incubadora que se llama TrendLab con 1 año de vida, que ha hecho fraguar mucha innovación y transferir esa innovación a áreas productivas de la empresa. Bien, voy a ser muy breve ahora, pero quería destacar, esta semana hemos lanzado ya una prueba de concepto con 500 clientes en la relación Madrid-Barcelona. Ya la están utilizando la aplicación. En esta aplicación ofrecemos planificación, reserva y pago, y por supuesto toda la atención personalizada que hemos desplegado con distintos canales, porque un valor diferencial de nuestra solución es que queremos acompañar al cliente desde el origen al destino, en todas las etapas del viaje, y si cambia sus necesidades, adaptarnos en tiempo real a ellas, ¿no? Y darle una solución. Por tanto, bueno, este es el portal de registro que hemos tenido abierto durante 3-4 semanas. Hemos recibido miles de solicitudes, hemos seleccionado a estos 500 valientes que nos van a ayudar a hacer algo que nos apetecía muchísimo, que era escuchar a los clientes y participar, generar una confianza mutua para participar en un proceso de co-creación. Lo que vamos a hacer va a ser, en esta prueba de concepto, que la vamos a tener abierta durante 3 meses, es aprender de los procesos, relación con los operadores, pero sobre todo escuchar a nuestros clientes y que nos ayuden a definir el producto final. Ese producto final lo vamos a lanzar el año que viene, a finales del año que viene, y esperamos contar con muchos operadores. Ahora mismo, en la fase actual de prueba de concepto, contamos con los operadores que veis ahora en la pantalla. En una primera fase vamos a tener todo el transporte público y todo el transporte público de Madrid y de Barcelona a nivel informacional y transaccional, es decir, permitiendo la reserva y el pago. Contamos con los servicios de alta velocidad, de rodalías y de cercanías, de Cabify y de Carhu, que es una empresa B2B que alcanza más o menos unos volúmenes a nivel nacional de 30.000 taxis, ¿de acuerdo? Y en una segunda fase que se iniciará a partir de mediados de diciembre, en un mes más o menos, vamos a incorporar cosas bastante disruptivas, operadores bastante novedosos, puesto que vamos a incorporar el pago desde nuestra app en la empresa municipal de transportes de Madrid. Vamos a poder utilizar nuestra app para pagar y subirte a un billete, a un bus municipal, también las bicis eléctricas de Bicimat, y vamos a incorporar también operadores como Zurich de patinetes, car sharing de Seat Respiro, los aparcamientos de Saba y seguramente también TMB con algunos de sus servicios. Y esto, como digo, sin salir de nuestra app, con toda la parte de búsqueda, planificación, reserva y pago, ¿de acuerdo? Y bueno, simplemente quería lanzaros aquí un pequeño teaser. Ay, perdón, a ver, ¿se ve? Vale. Es un vídeo muy rápido, os animo a que os paséis por nuestro stand si queréis ver la aplicación en real y probarla. Y bueno, básicamente hemos rediseñado toda la experiencia de cliente y hemos tratado de simplificar al máximo todo el proceso de adquisición de títulos de transporte con las nuevas tecnologías, llevarlo todo dentro de la misma app y, desde luego, que mantener al cliente informado en todo momento de la situación de su viaje. Y bueno, solamente deciros que durante todos estos meses vamos a ir metiendo nuevas funcionalidades, nuevos operadores, y espero que, bueno, como os comentaba antes, a final del año que viene la uséis todos y todas. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. We are almost out of time. I had some questions regarding inclusivity, regarding regulation after or before the services are started. We don't have time for a long discussion because we are almost out of time. But if anyone from the public has some sharpening questions, please move forward.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I would like to ask some perspective about the competence with the airplane, because, for example, the length, I see the cost is really high for students like me. So maybe for me, it's like easier to travel around by the plane. And I know that in the perspective, the ecology perspective, it's kind of the bad choice, but for the cost, maybe I have to choose the airplane. So maybe this is kind of the challenge for the transportation. So I want to know what do you think? Thank you.
Well, can I answer your question in Spanish, please? Okay, thank you. Bien, respecto a la gestión de los precios, nuestra voluntad es tratar de socializar el acceso a los servicios de movilidad. Como empresa pública de servicios, nuestro objetivo es la cohesión social y territorial, aparte de la eficiencia operativa de nuestros servicios para garantizar la sostenibilidad. En este sentido, vamos a sacar dentro de unos próximos meses, exactamente en abril, el producto Low Price. Empezaremos con la relación Madrid-Barcelona y vamos a conseguir movernos en un entorno de unos 60 euros viaje ida y vuelta, para que todo el mundo pueda acceder a los servicios de alta velocidad con una reducción de los costes también, lógicamente en detrimento de los servicios que se podrán seleccionar como ancillary services al viaje y bueno, nuestra voluntad es tratar de generar un ecosistema entre todos los operadores donde el cliente, el usuario final, se beneficie de una economía de escala en cuanto a los precios y poder abaratar los costes de acceso a la movilidad.
One last question from the floor.
Hello, my name is Florencia. This question is mainly for Carolina Pasos. I'm from Argentina, so I can ask the question in English, but if you prefer, I can also ask it in Spanish.
Como quieras.
Okay, so I'll do both very quickly. So my question is, what do you think are the main barriers to have in Argentina seamless transportation? Maybe you can tell me a little bit about the city of Buenos Aires, because I know the contexts are very different between cities. You said that most cities are monomodal, they have buses, but I know Buenos Aires has all these services like public transportation, but also all these new trends in terms of micromobility and new services. So yes, I'm interested in how do you apply mass services in Argentina, and what do you think are the barriers for it? So barreras para el Mobility as a Service en Argentina, y cuánto crees que tardaremos en tener un servicio así en el país. Gracias.
Bueno, ok. Las principales barreras a las cuales tuvo que enfrentarse la ciudad de Buenos Aires, en primer lugar, lo que comentaba en términos de conectividad e infraestructura hace unos años, cualquier plataforma que necesitemos utilizar, desde cualquier smartphone, necesita una buena conectividad, y muchas veces esto no se obtenía cuando vos recorres la ciudad de Buenos Aires. Con lo cual, en términos de infraestructura, es un gran desafío y una importante barrera. Y por otro lado, podría mencionar la barrera cultural. Todavía no está del todo implementada a nivel nacional, sí un poco más en la ciudad de Buenos Aires, pero la gente a veces prefiere seguir utilizando el transporte privado sobre el transporte público, más allá de que tal vez no siempre se cumplan las frecuencias y demás, pero necesita todavía un gran crecimiento en términos de política cultural. Pero esas serían las grandes barreras. A nivel nacional, la principal es la infraestructura, ¿sí? En términos de conectividad nacional entre las ciudades y dentro de cada una de las ciudades. Hoy por hoy es el mayor desafío al que tenemos que enfrentarnos.
Well, thank you very much. I think it's been a very interesting panel. I'm sorry I didn't have more time for discussions. We started with the challenges that Mr. Baggart provided us of moving from standalone systems to coordinated systems and the need for re-regulation. Then we saw the realities of both Johannesburg and Argentina of how we cannot make quick steps without making sure that nobody is left behind, and different solutions are needed for different realities. And finally, we saw the perspective from a company, not from a regulator or a government, and how they are also evolving from the both public and private sector, the companies on this sense. So please give a final warm round of applause for our speakers, and I leave the floor to Mr. Bätzner, our chairman today, that will make our final remarks and wrap up. Please take your seats. Thank you.